What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Fantasy Football. My name is Ryan Linkletter. I'm here with the Dean of Fantasy Football. We are talking tight end bust heading into the year. If you haven't checked out our prior two videos, running backs and wide receiver bust, make sure you go check that out after this video as well. Dean, let's start with Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert did not play a lot last season, struggled with injuries. There's been trade rumors.
Yep.
Is he done? Is he cooked?
Yeah, listen, I feel like we're kind of picking on the Eagles as of late. There's at
Yeah.
least one Eagle in these videos, and we apologize, but it's just not looking great. I think the Dallas Goedert days are over. You could possibly look into the depth chart in the Eagles for the tight end position, maybe like a nice value in your deeper leagues. But I think the Dallas Goedert days are over. He's getting a lot older. He did not get a lot of target shares last season, and that is a result to having two wide receivers that really want the ball and a running back that is your primary offensive player. So unfortunately, I think the Dallas Goedert days are over and done with. Doesn't speak to the Eagles. I think they're still going to be a successful team and continue to win ball games, but I don't think Dallas Goedert is going to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part, we want you guys to understand when we go through these rankings is the tight end position is incredibly deep this year, and it feels like you don't have to settle picking a guy that's had past production because there's a lot of high upside options that we'll talk about in future videos and past videos as well that can be very valuable in fantasy football, especially PPR formats. With Goddard, right, last year played a career low 10 games, scored a career low 2 touchdowns, has not scored over 5 touchdowns in a season in an offense where passing production is so volatile on a week-to-week basis. It's just not telling me enough that Dallas Goedert is going to be even a tight end one this year for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that avoiding him is probably in your best interest. Players around him, you want to target. Like I would go and get Tyler Warren. I would go and throw a dart on Colston Loveland, like some younger players that have potentially higher upside, especially if Anthony Richardson is out. Daniel Jones and Tyler Warren could be a sneaky duo there. But Dallas Goedert, I'm out on him. I think he's trending in the wrong direction, and he's never stayed fully healthy for an entire season. So those are some major reasons we're avoiding him. Our next player here, Mark Andrews, he probably is the fantasy just anti-GOAT after last season where he was incredibly volatile. Nobody played him, and then he decides to go off, and then he loses the Ravens a playoff game.
Yeah, I had some leagues where people dropped him in those early weeks.
Yeah.
We thought it was the Isaiah Likely show that it was time, it was over. But then he came back. Finished as the tight end 6, which is impressive to say the least, especially like we said with that weird start to the season. But I'm over him. I think he's just way too expensive. He's still up there high, like nothing happened last year.
Yeah.
I think there's more value in Isaiah Likely later in your drafts, if anything. I think, what is going on in that Ravens offense is kind of this new flip of players. You have Zay Flowers, who's great, but also someone we want to avoid. Derrick Henry's coming over, taking away a lot of that passing game. I just don't see the ceiling being as high as it once was for Mark Andrews. I think it's lowering, and I don't think you're going to get much production out of him this year.
Yeah, last year, despite the slow start, he had a career high in touchdowns at 11, right? I don't think he is going to be able to match that in back-to-back years where he had a 5-year streak without 10 touchdowns. That's really, really tough ask, and he hasn't necessarily been healthy over the last 3 seasons where he's missed 7 games over that time, right? Andrews has not looked fast. He's not explosive. He's not separating. He's not a great blocker. Those are not a key combination group of things. And then you add in the fact that he has a hyper-talented tight end behind him that is due for a contract extension next year that John Harbaugh mentioned. This guy is a potential all-pro type player. Everything is working against Mark Andrews, and he's currently priced as the tight end 7 in our rankings. I would avoid him in that cost. I am just avoiding Mark Andrews in general at this point. Andrews is not where he once was production-wise. Isaiah Likely is going to continue to rise up draft boards and rise up the depth chart rank. And ultimately, Mark Andrews is going to be in for a rough season. Let's talk about another tight end we got in this list. Dalton Kincaid, a rival of the Baltimore Ravens on the Buffalo Bills. Tell me why Dalton Kincaid is never going to reach that breakout status a lot of him want.
I mean, if there's I don't know, do you give up on him? If there's a year, it's got to be this year, maybe, but they still price him like so high. And
Yeah,
I think it's because of his production in college. We expected him to be kind of what Brock Bowers what Sam Laporta was, right? But he just hasn't been. And it's something that maybe just due to a lot of drops in his time on the field, or maybe just Josh Allen not looking his way.
yep.
It just hasn't worked out for Dalton, and I don't know why, but from the previous history that we are getting from him, it just isn't working out. So, still priced as kind of that like higher mid tier in a sense for tight ends. Like, I just don't want to take that risk on maybe it working out for Dalton, but it just
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it will.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid starts to feel like he's fallen into Kyle Pitts territory, where every offseason, this is the Dalton Kincaid year, but
Yes.
I'm not gonna buy into it. I mean, the strength of schedule is 26 for tight ends against the Bills. Like, I don't necessarily love it. And Kincaid feels like a player that Joe Brady consistently does not target in the biggest moments. It's Khalil Shakir on third down. It's other players in these big spots. Dalton Kincaid's more of a we'll throw him 4 to 5 targets game. That's about it. Type of
Mhm.
target share within this team, right? The production's dropped from last year. His catch rate fell from 80% to 58%. I expect that to, balance out a little bit. But I think in a Joe Brady offense where they spread the ball around, the running backs are so involved in the passing game. The passing production is actually down under Joe Brady. Why should I buy into Dalton Kincaid when all these red flags are there and everybody's just saying, oh, he's a first round talent? We'll figure it out. Yeah, look how that's worked out for Kyle Pitts. Not very well, right? Avoid Dalton Kincaid. The passing volume is not there in this Bills offense. And, the consistent targets are just not going to fall the tight ends' way because Josh Allen has also never targeted tight ends at an insanely high rate. So just avoid Dalton Kincaid, guys. He is the new Kyle Pitts of fantasy football. Heading
Oh.
into our next player here, Cade Otton. Cade Otton had some really big weeks and some weeks we were like, Cade Otton's the most frustrating player in the world. Get me out of your lineup, Cade Otton. Tell me about Cade Otton and why we should be avoiding him.
Yeah, listen, I mean, he broke out into the scene basically because Chris Godwin went down.
Yeah.
That was it. That's where his target share went up, the volume. He was great. I think he was a great pickup for a lot of people probably last year to fill out their rosters to get upgrade in the tight end. But hey, listen, unfortunately, Chris Godwin's back. Hopefully he'll be healthy. But listen, they re-signed him. They drafted Emeka Ibuka, another guy that's going to take away target shares, right? So it's just not looking good for Cade Otton. I think he might just be that flash in a pan person
Yeah.
for the Bucks, but there's just so much receiving volume on that field for the Buccaneers. I think Baker's great. He's a great, phenomenal fantasy quarterback by this year because of the volume. But for individuals, I just don't think it's worth the risk for Cade Otton because of all the talent around him. And I'm not even talking about the backfield yet, which I think is great and gets a nice volume share as well. So just 2025, I just don't think it's worth the risk for Cade Otton.
Yeah. Listen, I was a big K Dot and truther for like a good 3 weeks last season, and I
Perfect.
didn't I didn't sell him. Like I was like, K Dot will be back. He'll be back. No. He never returned to fantasy relevance after those big weeks. And with the volume that the tight end position has had in this Bucks offense, and this has gone through multiple offensive coordinators now, it's
Right.
never been a position where it's just like, oh, we're throwing this ball consistently to the tight ends. It's just never happened. And now the fact that they add a Mecca Igabuka, like they have probably the deepest and most talented receiver room in the NFL right now, and it's not even close. Add in the fact you have Bucky Irving, Rashad White, Sean Tucker in a backfield. Like they have so many weapons on this team. K Dotton feels like an afterthought within this offense. And who
Yep.
knows what the target share is going to look like under a new offense coordinator. But I can't imagine that they're going to scheme up K Dotton for a ton of plays this season. It is going to be wide receiver heavy production for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not a lot of K Dot in production, and it'll be very frustrating when you draft him versus drafting a high upside option, potentially Bretton Strange, Isaiah Likely, who are both going behind him right now. So don't make that mistake. Don't pick a guy who had a few big weeks. Go get the upside right around him as well. Our last player here, Mike Gesicki, a player who broke out last season, earned himself a nice contract extension for the Bengals. Tell me why he is not T. Higgins proof.
I think he just bumped his head on the ceiling last year. This is probably one of the highest finishes he's had in a long time as tight end 13. He had a tight end one finish one of the weeks as well. It was awesome to see, and I think also it just speaks to Joe Burrow's kind of year that he had. But you look around, he's paired with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, who are signed and staying here in Cincinnati.
Yep.
Um, Chase Brown, who's come onto the scene as a great dual threat running back as well. It's just I don't it the likelihood of Gesicki repeating a tight end 13 season is so unlikely. And if you think about that, right, tight end 13, he's probably not even going to be in a starting lineup for you in your leagues, right? If you think about the
Yep.
majority of leagues, 12 teams, whatever. But there's no way that we can see a repeat for him in 2025, especially with the weapons that the Bengals have. Listen, they're going to probably be throwing a lot because that defense is god awful, but I just don't see the consistency out of Mike Gesicki for your fantasy teams.
100%. Listen, that last year with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the field, he averaged 4.9 targets per game. With one of them off the field, he averaged 5.2 catches per game. Like this offense does not
Yeah.
support three weapons. Like
Nope.
it goes to two guys, and when one of those guys are off the field, Mike Gesicki absolutely balled out and was incredibly good in a lot of lineups last year. But his ceiling is so capped with both those guys in the field. He is just not going to get the ball enough to be a consistent producer in fantasy football. And this is a player like that can just go for one catch, 8 yards, and you lose your week because of that, because of the guys around him. This
Yep.
Bengals offense revolves around Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Chase Brown. It's not revolving around Mike Gesicki when all three of those guys are healthy. And last year, this Bengals offense was so productive and incredibly good because their defense was so bad. And their defense is going to be really bad again this year, but Joe Burrow basically had so much volume last season because the defense is bad. They're going to regress a little bit in that category. I don't think Gesicki is going to be as good in fantasy football this year and a big candidate to avoid this year. Those are our 5 tight ends you guys need to be avoiding. A lot of high upside options in this tight end class that make us very excited. So it's tough to make this list. Let us know down below who you guys think is the biggest bust at the tight end position in 2025. Hit that subscribe button for more Blitz fantasy football content, and me and Dean will catch you guys next time.